Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Wyman Grover, and this is S.L. Wyman's Rockin' Writing. I'm here with a hashtag today. Good morning. I'm actually going to film a hashtag today that I've been trying to film for a while. This is going to be hashtag All About Tarot 2022, which is a VR assignment at the Hermit's Cave. He's probably the first tarot tuber that I ever really encountered that got me into all of this, so I'm looking forward to this. I'm kind of excited. If my voice sounds a little rough, it's because it's first thing in the morning. Like I said, I've tried to film this several times, so I'm just going to kind of roll with it. If this is your first time here, thank you for stopping by. Hopefully this visual here won't get too boring by the end of it. There's a reason for it, though. And if you like what you see, like, subscribe, comment, all that wonderful stuff that keeps channels going. Much appreciated. And if you're a returning person, I appreciate you just as much. It's good to see you again. Let's give this a shot, because this is going to be a longer one. I may even have to film it in a couple of parts. Hopefully not. Let's see what we can do, okay? So, the first question is your first deck and how you encountered it. Well, that's going to be this bad boy right here. Showed it on the channel before, but it's my old, trusty, beat up hashtag my disheveled deck. Good old-fashioned RWS. I'm not going to sit here and flip through the whole thing, because you guys have seen RWS in all of its forms probably quite a bit. But I received this as a birthday present when I turned 18 in 1997. I just started my journey into pretty much all things Wicca and witchy, and tarot was part of that journey. And this was a gift from my mother. So I really enjoyed it, and it opened up a whole new world to me. And again, it was just the start of my path as far as religion, as far as tarot, all of that. And actually, I keep it in this box. It looks exactly the same like those recipe boxes that you get at Michael's kind of thing. My sister-in-law painted that for me, and my niece helped her decorate it and picked out the decorations and the colors when she was really little, so that means a heck of a lot to me. So I absolutely do adore that deck, and it will never be leaving my collection, and it's why I would have a hard time even using another RWS, I think, because I'm so sentimentally attached to that one, to be honest. I just don't know if I'd actually be able to use another one, because it just doesn't have the 25 years worth of, stuff all just built up into it, and energy-wise that I've, worked with it a lot over the last 20-some years. So, and the next prompt is your last deck and how your tastes have changed. Well, I actually had a hard time figuring out what was my last deck, and, well, after a lot of kind of looking around, I realized that was the Everyday Witch. And this deck is an example in my book of how the more things change, the more they stay the same. Because I fought this deck for a very, very long time. Because it's kitschy. It's a little on the stereotypical side. And I wasn't sure that it would, because my tastes have changed. But eventually I caved and I got it. Because I decided I needed a good, just all-around deck for if I wanted to go professional, which I'm still highly considering. And I wanted another deck. I wanted to get a small collection of decks that are more general good readers, and this one really surprised me because it is. It is a fun all-around workhouse, but it also, in addition to being a fun all-around workhouse deck that I just really enjoyed a lot more than I thought I would, it also kind of harkens back to my very, very early witchy days of, good old Silver Raven Wolf, baby witch days. Kind of, first getting into things. So, yeah, the more things change, the more they stay the same, I guess. But yeah, even though my aesthetic has changed, I guess, in the heart I'm still that wide-eyed kid, still trying to check things out and still trying to learn new stuff. So that would be my latest deck. The next question is, why tarot? It's kind of what draws you to that over other divination. I'm going to kind of answer that and as simply as I can, and that's because nothing else. It's just the easiest system for me. Like, it gives me a clearer picture if I'm trying to get an answer to a question than a pendulum, say, swinging back and forth between yes and no. It just gives me more of a concrete answer, something I can sink my teeth into, something I can investigate, something I can ponder, right? And I've always, in visual images and art, always have moved me or made me think more than anything else. So I suppose that would be why. I'm also going to kind of somewhat answer an old hashtag of Cursed Elemental Cartomancy with this, because I'm obviously going to do how to use tarot and why do I like it. Well, it's comforting and, why does it work and does it matter? I don't think it does. I think what matters is, that it works for you, whatever method you choose to use, right? Number 4, pet peeves. Oh, this one's going to be a fun one. So, first thing, Simon and I are very much on the same page for this first one. That is lazy pips. I am not a fan of lazy pips. And when I say lazy pips, I mean a deck that just has a picture of like 10 cups. They'll sit down and it'll just be 10 cups. There won't be any, no fanfare, no special decorations around it, nothing to make it look interesting, nothing to really give you anything to sink your teeth into. It's just straight up Marseille 10 cups. Not that I do not like a Marseille system. What I've got on the side here, I decided to show you what I consider pips done right. This is from the Mythical Creatures Tarot by Baba Studios. Alright, now these are not lazy pips. They are pips, though. As you can see, there's just 4 wands. But look at the intricate border. Look at the beautiful designs. Look how pretty that is. You get so much more feeling. This is so much more evocative. And this is, first of all, cold stamping. Look at that. It's just gorgeous. But as you can see, it's definitely not lazy. You can get much more off of this. So that's an example of what I consider pips done right. Do not like lazy pips. It's like I can't read that. It shows nothing. It gives me nothing. It tells me nothing. If it's just 3 cups. Yeah, I can get into the numerology and the suits and all that good stuff, but it doesn't really give me, I like something that gives me a story. What is another one of my pet peeves? Well, I'm gonna dog on the original RWS just a little bit. Pregnant Empress. Can we not? I love the traditional RWS, but can we not? With the Pregnant Empress. I know too many people for whom pregnancy is not a goal, not a good thing. Too many people feel that that's just, basically getting agendas pushed on them and reducing them to just, reproductive machines, which is not cool. I know too many people who have lost kids, can't have kids, all of that, and it's triggering to them. And also, as somebody who does not want and will never have children and cannot have children, I can't get into that card. I would rather see, just give her a beautiful, lush figure. Put her in the middle of a garden that's in full bloom. That's enough of a representation of abundance for me. Another one that annoys me is the really stern, unfriendly looking emperor. I would prefer the emperor look like a good leader, a kind person, somebody who rules fairly, with the best interest of his people in mind. Because ideally, if you're going to follow somebody or somebody's going to be in charge, you want somebody that actually gives a crap. And if you've got this emperor that just looks like he's grumpy or mean, or like he doesn't care about the people under him, that's a real turnoff for me, because it just immediately screams, authority. And I have issues with authority and the patriarchy in general, and that just throws it right back into that. And the next one, again, not trying to dab in the original RWS, but the Hierophant. Overly Christianized, overly traditional Hierophant. Not everybody's Christian, and people sometimes have real issues with the church in general. And again, back to that, me having issues with patriarchy and with authority, and that basically just trips both of those really badly. So I would prefer to see more of like a guru or a wise person, somebody that you come to for advice. That would be a much better representation for me. And of course, the old king, young hot queen combination in the courts, that drives me crazy, and it's creepy. And the ageism in the courts in general, it's like, I would rather see, like, all the pages, have them be young, because that's what a page is supposed to be. They're supposed to be young. But then, like, in the wands and cups, have them be the younger people, right? Have them be a young, wise, handsome king and his beautiful, young, handsome queen if you want. That work together. And then have the knights be these slightly more mature but still younger guys, right? Well, then when you get into the pentacles and the swords, I want to see pentacles and swords. I want to see a mature knight and king and queen. I want to see in the swords, I want to see a battle-hardened veteran as a king. And his best bud, who's also a battle-hardened veteran, as the knight, who are both have gotten where they are by, having to fight for it and work for it. And a queen of swords who's, diplomatic and just to the point, no BS, but who is willing to get down off that throne with the sword and fight beside her husband if need be. And for the pentacles, especially for the queen, I want that motherly energy. Because that's what I feel. That's the motherly card to me, not the Empress. The Queen of Pentacles to me, that's the lady that I want to come. I want to feel like you're coming to sit on her porch and have some tea and tell her your problems, and she's going to help you figure them out. That's more of what I would like to see. And the last one is basically too much bubblegum, not enough substance. Which, I mean, some decks are meant to be just lighthearted and fun, and that's one thing. But when all they are is fluff, or all they are is pictures from a TV show with no real thought put into the representations, that drives me crazy. Alright. Number 5. Favorite tarot spread. Just for time's sake, I am not going to belabor it. I'll show you how it looks when it's laid out. But what I'll do is link the video. But basically, you're going to have 3. You'll have to forgive that they're not exactly neat, but I want to make sure they can kind of fit in the frame. But you see sort of how this works, right? You have 3 on this side, 3 on this side, and then this one in the middle. It's a spread I created called Centered on Growth. I've gotten a lot of compliments on it. So, which I really appreciate the wonderful feedback I've gotten on it. I will link the video I did that describes it in the description box below once I get this uploaded. What you have here is you have a central thing that you're trying to nurture, right? The thing you're trying to grow. And then over here, you have the seeds, things you need to plant, things you need to do to make it grow, make it go, right? And over here, you have the weeds, things you need to pull, things you need to cut out. Now, the further down you go, the more important the thing is, or the harder it is to weed out. But at the same time, it's still, an important thing that you need to make sure gets done. So that's kind of a very, very fast, loose overview, but it's one of my favorite spreads because it can get into some really deep stuff. So there's your trigger warning on that one. Number 6, preferred tarot system. Well, RWS. Because it's what I started with, and while I am branching out into the other 2 of the big 3, I am really enjoying I do enjoy Marseille, and I'm learning more about both as we go, but that's the one I come back to, is RWS. Number 7, tarot rituals. I have a lot of them. So I might actually make that a separate video on its own. Kind of its own little hashtag/VR response. So I'm going to just keep it short and sweet and say that I do prefer to do my readings in the morning when I get up. Like what I'm doing now, I prefer to do it that way. It's just easier. Usually I'll have my, I have to have something to drink with it. Usually I'll sit there with my morning caffeine and kind of have a tarot video on in the background or some music on in the background and just sit there and do my spreads. Which I may go through some of those. Like I said, I might do a separate video on that later. So let's kind of move on to number 8, which is how do you use it? How do you use tarot? Self-help, self-improvement, organization. I use it as a way to sort out my ADHD mind. And, make sense of muddled feelings a little bit, because the images help me while I'm shuffling, while I'm looking through things. It helps me to focus and figure out what my brain is already coming up with as a solution to a problem I'm having anyway. I use it as meditation. I use it as focus. I use it to help other people do the same. I also use it as a connection to my ancestors, to deity, and just kind of as part of my spiritual journey. So that's how I use it. All right, number 9, your significator card, and why does it represent you? Simon had a really interesting way of doing that, so I'll kind of mention it, although I don't ever really use the one that's supposed to be for mine. He uses Myers-Briggs personality type to determine it, which mine happens to be INFJ, which is supposed to be the Queen of Cups, which I don't use ever as a significator card. And I really thought about it. It's like, well, wait, I'm a fire sign. That doesn't make sense. And then I really got digging into it. Well, first of all, I'm a Sagittarius, right? So, of course, you have temperance. I have never felt a huge connection to this card because it felt too watery for me, right? It was just kind of weird. I did not feel much of a connection to that. But then it hit me. I have 2 other birth cards, right? First one's the moon. It's a water card. Cancer, which is my moon sign. So I was like, okay, well, maybe that's a little closer to home than I'd like. But my very first significator card I ever used was the Page of Swords. So when I use this deck in particular, it's this card because it's always been me from day one. Because I use the old method of, hair color, eye color, age, and all that stuff to determine it. But to be quite frank, it depends on the deck I'm using. It's the card that most embodies me, but the most me card out of everything would be my ultimate birth card. It should be the Hermit. And this one right here from the Wild Unknown, this is the most me ever. It's the little turtle. It's the tortoise. The little candle. Just sitting there, just hanging out. I get cozy Yule vibes from this little guy every time I see him. And I was born in December, so I was actually supposed to be born on Yule. I just wound up being impatient and coming out early. Surprise, surprise. Me impatient? Who would have thought, right? But I love this little guy. He makes me happy. If I could use him as a significator in every deck, I would. But, so there you have it. I use a different significator for every one. Alright, next one. Most expensive tarot acquisition. I'm not going to get into amounts because I think there's already too much shame and blame over people spending money. But, that would be True Black Tarot. I have spent more on getting a couple decks together, saved up for months like I did for this one to get them. But, yeah, single deck wise though, this is probably the one I've spent the most on. And I don't regret it. I know a lot of people crab about cardstock, it don't shuffle, blah, blah, blah. Well, I think if you just work with it, it shuffles pretty fine. But, that's me. And that's my most expensive purchase right there. So, I should really use it more, to be honest. Okay, number 11, Unicorn deck. I have several. Right now my big one is the Yokai Yochi. Because that just went out of print. I'm probably not going to be able to get a copy of it. But, you should, if you have a chance, look it up. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous deck. I like it. I can't remember the artist right off the top of my head right now, but that is a great deck. Number 12, most important lesson tarot has taught you. I guess the most important lesson tarot has taught me is to really look at things instead of, wanting to turn away or shove them away or ignore them. It's like, no, you need to deal with things. You need to look at them. You need to actually actively work on an issue. If you have something that's, causing you grief, causing you pain, you really need to actually dive into that. So I guess shadow work is one of the most important lessons that tarot's taught me. And, not only that, I've met so many wonderful people through TarotTube. And that brings us to number 13, dinner party guests. This is where I'm going to veer off course a little bit, because I know it's supposed to be tarot related. But, quite frankly, if I could have a dinner party tarot related, I would just, and if I had no limit and everybody could attend, I would just invite all my favorite tarot tubers. Y'all know who you are. I've connected with you. I've been on your lives. I've been in the chats. I've watched your videos. I've made comments. Tarot 2 community means a lot to me, so I would just love to have all of you at a dinner party. But we're going to actually turn this back to writing and music, which are two of my other big passions, which I rarely talk on this channel, despite the channel's name. So, we're going to start with authors. Book authors that I would love to sit down with, living or past. I've just picked 3 because honestly they would all be the guest of honor. But if I could pick 3 artists, living or not, to sit down with, authors, it would be Stephen King, Neil Gaiman, and Mary Shelley. Because Stephen King, his book, Eyes of the Dragon, is the reason I'm a writer. His books were some of the first novels I ever read as a child, and he's inspired me. He's one of the reasons I write, so I would love to talk to him and thank him for that. And Neil Gaiman, well, I recently took his master class, and he's brilliant, and he's so approachable, and he's so fun, and he's just got this soothing, melodious voice that's a pleasure to listen to. So I'd just like to talk with him about his work and all of that. And Mary Shelley basically originated the genre I like to read and write the most. I mean, she wrote some of the original Victorian Gothic novels, right? Frankenstein. I mean, because what are some of my favorite books? Dracula, Frankenstein, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Portrait of Dorian Gray. Right? What do all of those have in common? Gothic, Victorian romance and horror, right? So, that, and she was just had an interesting life. It'd be great to talk to her. Now, musicians. Unfortunately, 2 of the ones I'd like to talk to are no longer with us. And that would be David Bowie and Freddie Mercury. Just because they were so heavily influential in not only my musical taste, but in a lot of things. I'm not going to belabor the point because we've heard me go on and on about how much I love David Bowie. And Freddie Mercury was such an incredible talent, and I love his voice. Queen has always been my favorite band. So I really adore that. And then the last one might surprise you, and that is Cyndi Lauper. And that is because her song True Colors was very important to me as a kid. Because, well, as someone who grew up bullied without a lot of friends and who felt really alone, that song made a very lonely, unhappy little girl feel a little bit less alone and a little bit less unhappy. So I would love to thank her for that. Plus, I understand she may potentially be into tarot and might like tarot. So, hey, a little bit of crossover there. So that is my hashtag. Again, I'm so sorry for the boring background, guys, but hi. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you. I'm really kind of experimenting with different ways to film, so hopefully in the future I can make something a little more dynamic for this, but either way, I appreciate you having stuck with me this long. Thank you. Again, if you're new here, I appreciate you stopping by. Like, comment, subscribe, all that. Love to get to know you. Otherwise, I just, want to wish you all a happy day. Please be safe out there and have a good one, all right? Bye.